gonna do this haircut, so if you guys want to set up and I'm gonna section her, we're doing an inverted bob. So I want you to wet and condition your dolls at least so they're combable, or however you want to set them up, and break them down the middle into two. And then I'll do the demo once you are set up and wet and ready to go. Yep, those are all inverted bobs. Mm-hmm. Okay, so share the pictures you have with each other at what you're looking at. Similar, right? How are they different? When you look at them, because a guest is going to show you a picture and they want it to look like that, how are those different? When you look at each of those photos.
Just the length and the layers.
Are we layering this haircut or are we graduating this haircut? To create the... Graduating. Mm-hmm. Does yours that you're looking at have layers? When you look at it, can you identify if it's just a graduation or if there's layers?
I would say it's just very soft layers at the back.
Okay. Do you think you have layers in yours?
Not really, I would say.
Say again, sorry.
Not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
Okay. How about for you? Do you think you have layers?
No.
Okay. Let me see yours.
I feel like I have graduation in the back and then it's just like the front is just one leg.
Okay, so if you look at the top and it comes down, like looking at just the side view, if the top comes all the way down and you don't see any pieces in here, that's not layered. It's a more of a one length. So do you visually look at the side? What do you see?
Just one length.
Yeah.
You have layers,
Yeah.
right? She has layers, you two have one length. So look at hers again, and then look at yours. Look at the side of hers. I don't love like the way they're layered, but it's like choppy, but that's layered.
That's an accident.
Possibly. I don't think anyone's gonna want like choppy, but that was like a minute, right? Okay, so if those sides, it's confusing because when you stack the back, there's different lengths. So you could think that the back has layers, but you need to look at the sides. You wouldn't layer the back and not the sides. That would be weird. This would look like dog ears. But you would graduate the back and graduate the sides, but because the sides are longer, that graduation happens down here. And it's like, that's where the bevel comes from, is the graduation. Does that make sense? So when we're talking about a plan, what are the things we're thinking about? There's 3 things we have to think about before we even start this. When we're creating an opinion, yes, we're talking about, can this head of hair have that haircut?
Yeah, just
Yes,
vision.
but this is the haircut she's decided is an inverted bob. We've decided it's okay for her hair, but now we need to attack the haircut. So there's 3 things we need to think about. What are they?
I don't want to say the wrong thing. Sectioning?
Sectioning,
Okay.
that's one thing. 2 more.
Would it be length too? What?
That's part of it, but not necessarily part of the planning. But you need to know what length you're going. That would be part of your consultation. But when I've stepped away from my client, I know this is what she wants. Now I have to formulate how the heck I'm getting there. So sectioning, elevation, and what's the other one?
Over direction.
Yes.
Yes, that one. This is the one where you do the triangle in the back.
It can be.
Okay.
It can be. Okay, so for this haircut, what sectioning am I going to use? Based on the end result, look at your picture. What line are you going to draw on the head to create that section? Or that haircut, sorry.
Section in a V.
Name that. I hear you. What are you saying?
It's not diagonal because it's not vertical.
This is vertical.
Yeah,
this
not
is horizontal.
What is it? Diagonal.
Yeah.
Okay, so right.
Yeah, you're right. I'm
Okay.
just getting you there.
Okay.
I'm going with you.
Okay.
Okay. So V is not incorrect, but using just diagonal, horizontal, vertical.
Mhm.
Okay, so then if we're going to use a diagonal, is it going to be a horizontal diagonal or is it going to be a vertical diagonal? What's the difference? Does anybody remember? Horizontal diagonal, vertical diagonal.
Vertical.
Okay, so a vertical diagonal is going to look like this, and a horizontal diagonal is going to look like this. The vertical is going to live more in the vertical world. The horizontal is going to live more in the horizontal world. And there's variation in there, right?
So it'd be horizontal.
Horizontal.
So what determines that is the picture you're looking at. And I say that because if they have a very steep drop off, you may be living in this world.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more gradual or slower sloping, it's going to be more of a horizontal.
Would that be?
So look at the line at the bottom of the haircut. That's the line that you're using on the head. Does that make sense? Like, that's the line you're using on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, that line of graduation. Oops, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
That's the line that you're using going up. It's obviously steeper in the back and works its way out, right? Because the back is usually stacked differently than the sides, which is where we get into that triangle, that V that works its way out. So essentially, we're using both. We're starting with this in the back to make the back higher, and we're working our way, pivoting out to this.
Mm-hmm.
This is where your sectioning goes awry. If you pivot one side faster than the other side, they don't match.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's, but this is going to be our sectioning. It is based on the picture that they're showing us and the length that they have on their head. You know, if you're creating the haircut, that's one thing. They may not have the length on their head to do what they want. They may need to grow this out a little bit. So maybe you're stacking the back and this isn't as long. It just depends. You have to take into consideration the plan for that picture and then the head you're working on. Makes sense? So our sectioning is going to be both horizontal diagonal and vertical diagonal. We're going to start with vertical diagonal in the nape and move to horizontal diagonal. Tell me what you know about horizontal versus, what does horizontal do? What does vertical do? It goes up and down, but what does it do in reference to weight and a haircut?
Horizontal maintains weight and vertical removes.
Maintains, removes. So in the back, look at that picture. We're removing weight in the back, we're maintaining weight in the front. So those are the thought processes whenever you're looking at a picture. Where am I hanging on to weight? Where is it heavier? Where is it lighter? Does that make sense why these work now?
Mm-hmm.
So then the next step is, what is my elevation? So we're graduating the hair. So what's the standard elevation for graduation?
For vertical diagonal would be.
Nope,
No.
none of this.
Oh.
That doesn't matter. Just the elevation itself.
Anything? I don't want to say it wrong.
Well,
Actually, I don't care.
one,
Anything
two,
above 1 and up, right? Or is it like
Okay, so
45
it starts at 1 degree. The
Yeah.
moment we lift it off,
It's graduation.
it's graduated. Where does it end? Where does it change from a graduation to a layer? What degree?
90 and above.
90 and above changes to layers. So anywhere from 1 to 89 is going to create graduation. You have to decide, based on what you see, how high you have to elevate the hair to create the stack that you're looking at. And that's where it takes practice.
This is scary.
Now, when you're graduating, so our elevation is going to range somewhere from 1 to 89. I want you to find an inverted bob that you think is more of a 1 degree or closer to a 1 degree. Look at some pictures and show me what looks like a heavier inverted bob.
Oh.
Yep. the reason I'm having you find these pictures individually is so when a picture is shown to you, you're not a deer in the headlights. I have no idea what to do with that. I've never seen a picture like that before.
Would this be considered the same thing?
That's an A line. Look at the other one and tell me the difference.
It does have a little bit of. But would
There's
that, could that-
graduation right there.
I would say something like this, maybe. Or,
How is that different than the last one you showed me? Because the last one you showed me is not 1 degree.
mm-hmm.
And if we're elevating just a little, it's going to be heavier. Yes. So look at hers compared to yours now.
This with the blue one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So look at hers. They're all similar. What's similar about them?
There's no.
It
Like
doesn't
stacking.
appear like what? Like
Stacking.
stacking or like what you guys were like, there's some layering in the back.
Mm-hmm.
The heavier it is, the less layering or stacking it appears to have. So when you're thinking about that, that's going to be closer to an A line. Except when you're doing the A line, you're going to take and elevate it a little. But you're going to cut those ones exactly the way we already learned. Instead of keeping it 0, you're going to put your finger under it and lift it. Which is exactly what I was telling you not to do when you were doing the A line, correct?
Mhm.
Because then you created not a solid blunt line. So you already know how to do that haircut. The one shift is by elevating it a little bit. The section angle, and if you look at the 3 that you chose, if you compare them, the section angle, that one is going to be more vertical, right? Look at that blue one.
Yeah.
Yours is going to be more horizontal. See how hers is the least, and yours is going to kind of live in the middle. Between that one. Does that make sense? So that's what visually you're looking at when you're looking at haircuts. So all that being said, when we're moving towards the pictures you showed me, which I'm happy that's what you showed me because that's a bigger variation than what you already learned, right? I don't want you to do this. You can do this. You just have to lift it a little. I want you to do that first picture. We're going to be closer to 90 degrees, right? Because we need that stack. The higher you go, the steeper that stack is. What creates the length in the front? How do we keep the length in the front? It's the last thing. What tip of over direction are we going to use? Backwards.
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, it's there. It's on the tip of your tongue. Don't be afraid to say it. If you're wrong, it's okay. I need to know where your brain is. It helps me to know what to elaborate on. So we're going to use backward over direction. That's going to keep the length in the front. Now there are many ways to cut this haircut. So it's been taught many different ways. But I find that if you start in a triangle and you pivot out, it's the best way to learn it. It can be cut vertically and everything can come straight back in vertical sections as well. It can be cut horizontal and everything straight back in horizontal sections. But I find if you're looking for that pleasing look that you're showing me, then it works best in triangle sections. So sectioning is going to be really pertinent here, and following what you did in the last section is going to be most important. So left to right sectioning has to match, or you're wrong. It's uneven. And I'm going to tell you that because this is such a precise haircut, that even to this day, if I get talking and I don't pay attention to my section, not when I'm cutting, but when I make the section on the head, my one side is always longer because I didn't get it just precise, not perfect, precise. And so I'm telling you that that's where you will make mistakes for years. It's just human nature. So I don't want you to look at this side's longer than this side. I want you to look at, I need to fix my sections. Don't go in and start cutting to fix that. It needs to be the sections matching left and right, visually, okay? On your elevation, the way you're going to do that is when you cut the first section, you're not going to go, okay, I'm at 84 degrees.
Yeah.
What you're going to do is look for a solid line when you go to cut. If there's no solid line, You're at the wrong over direction and the wrong elevation. Does that make sense? Think about that blunt cut. You're cutting it, that line gets thicker and thicker. It doesn't get blurred. If you're getting blurred, it's because your elevation and your over direction is getting more and more off base as it goes forward. And what you will see in your end result, instead of that like beautiful flow and buildup of hair, it's gonna go step, step, step. You're gonna see every cut you made because it's not flowing together because it wasn't consistent. I'm not telling you that to be discouraged. I'm telling you that to know what area you need to fix, whether it's over direction, elevation, or sectioning. Does that make sense? So if you have steps in it, it's in where you're lifting and moving it. If you have unevenness, it's in your sections. Generally. There could be other things, but generally. Okay, so I'm going to draw this out. You can draw it out as well if you'd like. And then I'm going to cut it. Can you bring up that first picture that I said hang on to that? That you asked me about? Yeah. Yes. Not yeah. Yes. Yes. Wait. I have to find it. Of course, right?
I know, I'm sorry.
I want everyone to see that picture. I want to talk about why it's not an inverted bob, but why it appears to be one before we plan this out.
It was not that. This one? No, not that one. Yeah, it was this one, right? Which one was it? This is the same page.
Shoot, where'd it go?
Oh, is it this one?
No. Dang it. It was a layered A-line. And it looks, a layered A-line can look like a,
Or was it this one?
can look like a inverted.
It wasn't that one.
Let me see if I can find what I'm talking about, because you would do layers totally different. And I think I want to demo you that because as well.
It wasn't this one.
No. Son of a gun. This is probably the best I'm going to find right now. Do you see how the line is blunt? There's not stacking, but it looks like stacking. That's layering. But the layers back here are shorter than the layers in the front. That's also why it makes it look like a stack. So when we do layers, standard layers, we go up or we start at the top. Those layers would start at the back because the shortest point would be at the back, and then we would move towards the front. But if you come into this situation, I would like you to be able to do that haircut. So we'll get to that, but just something to think about when you're seeing what might look. If that blunt at the bottom is blunt all the way around, that's an A line, and there's movement above it is layers. So it's a combination of haircuts. Okay. Draw some light bulbs. So where are we going to start this haircut? In the back or on the sides?
In the back.
In the back. So we're going to start focusing occipital down. And this is how you're going to reference specific to their head. So when you're looking at the side profile, your occipital bone is on a diagonal with the tip of your nose. You see what I'm talking about? Here's my occipital bone. Look at my profile. Here's the tip of my nose. Here's my occipital. Do you see the diagonal that it creates? So naturally, that's where that should sit. With this haircut, you can create an occipital bone that somebody doesn't have. Somebody may have a flat head. This haircut's great to create that more natural head shape if it's too flat. But your reference point is going to be that occipital bone. Everything below the occipital bone, we're going to be using vertical diagonal. And we're going to pivot out. By the time we get to the top of that occipital bone, we're going to be in the horizontal diagonal world. Yes? You with me? Okay. So we're going to start in the center like that. And then we're going to take the next section like this. Now this first one is going to have 0 over direction. It's going to come straight out from the head, and we're going to elevate it properly. But the second section is going to have over direction. So this section is going to get pulled back to here before it's cut. Does that make sense? And then the next section is going to get pulled back to here. And then the next section, do you see how this is working, like pivoting itself out? Is going to get pulled back to here. Now, if it's a dramatic, where it's like super short here and super long here, you may be bringing everything to the center. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Because you need that length in the front. But a standard way of doing it would be just one section back. And I'm going to show you how you do that successfully. So then as you move, here would be that imaginary line, if you will. So here would be kind of what it looks like from the side as you pivot to this one right here. Yes? You're with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't really draw this visually from the side, so I'm not going to, it'll be confusing. But as you move your way up, you're in horizontal diagonal. Now remember the haircut down here that you were trying to achieve? That's what determines what this line is going to look like. Is how, so if you wanted it steeper, then maybe the line, instead of looking like this, would look more like this. Yes? Does that make sense? And so then, this one goes here, this one goes here, this one goes here, this one goes here, right? And then when you cut the hair, you cut it T to the part. What does that mean when I say T to the part?
You bring everything back.
I am bringing everything back, but if this is the part line on the head, say we're working on this section, let me get a third color so that it's visually different. If this is the section we're working on, correct? And this is where the hair is going to go. T to the part means that this hair looks like this, and this makes the T. Does that make sense? And then you're cutting completely parallel to that part. So I'm going to show you what it shouldn't look like. If this is what it's supposed to look like, and all this hair is supposed to come down to this line, what it shouldn't look like is this. That's not parallel to this line, or perpendicular to this line. It needs to come down here. And the biggest mistake people make is they draw it all the way back. And that's when you get that, instead of like a pleasing line down the side, you get the, like the drop off. And sometimes it can look like a dog ear that doesn't belong to the rest of the haircut. Does that make sense? So if they wanted it to be that steep, you should make the line that steep. Yes? No? Maybe so?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Are you ready to see it?
Yes.
We've planned it. Now think about all the thoughts that we just went into planning it.
Can I record?
Of course
Just
you can.
your hands.
Yes, of course you can.
This one and all
So I want you to think about all the planning we just talked about to get to this point. The planning and understanding of what you're about to do is more important than what you're about to do. You have to be able to know that, because every picture that's shown to you, you have to think about, how is this different than the last time I cut it? They're not all like, you can't just stamp a cookie cutter on top and be like, done. Do it the same as I did last time. because all hair is not created equal. Sometimes they have a bald spot that you're covering. Sometimes they have thinner areas. Sometimes they have too much hair for the haircut they're asking for. So all those things, that planning is important. I can't cut without a comb and scissors. And that would be magic if I could. I'd really be cute in there. Okay, so the first step is to, I'm off center in my center part. Do you see this? You see how it's like wider here? Oh, I'm looking in there, sorry. I'll let you be right there. So do you see,
Yeah.
if you look under here, I'm off center. So from the beginning, if I start at this part, that peak of my graduation is going to be over to one side. So I'm already going to be uneven. So if you're not dead center, that's a part of it. So really knowing where that center is on the person you're working on and utilizing the mirror to do so, to figure that out. Sorry, I'm standing in your way. But it'll still be off center if I do it to the side. And do you guys use cutting lotion?
Mm-mm.
Do you know what a cutting lotion is?
I never use those.
So a cutting lotion would be something like Genius.
Yeah, like a deep.
A leave-in conditioner spray is a good, it like makes the comb slip better and it keeps the hair wetter. and
One
creates-
time I did that on somebody, and then like when I went to go blow dry, it was like too much. I used too much.
So you spray it once and then you re-wet.
Yeah,
You don't use this as your
I
water.
did when I
You don't
first
use
started.
this as your water bottle.
I did.
You
do
put
that.
it in like you would a leave-in. You don't want to use any more than you would if you were using it as a leave-in, but that just keeps the hair wet longer while you're trying to cut. So I'm in the center now. So I'm going to find the occipital bone. The occipital bone on the head, the easiest way to find it is to place the comb on the head, and where the comb leaves it is where the occipital bone reference is. So you're going to take from right there. That's the first area you're working in. Now your doll, you need to reference where that occipital bone is on your doll, because each model of a doll head is a little different. Being sure when you do this not to lose your center, or you're going to have to go back and find it. Now, I don't know what you guys are using for clips, but I like these for larger sections. And I like, here it is. I like these for smaller sections. So, my first section is going to be a little bit from both sides. And at the baseline is going to be approximately 1 comb's worth. Let's grab one more clip. Can you see what I'm making there with that triangle section with the vertical diagonals? And her head is like super crooked, I just realized. So I'm gonna adjust that before I start. Having their head down for this particular haircut allows your fingers to fit easier in this section, where their neck and their shoulders can get in the way. So you're gonna have to, you can come stand around me if you want, but when you cut this haircut, you're gonna stand directly in front of the section you're cutting. And you're gonna bring it towards yourself. So there's no over direction on this haircut, but there is elevation, and it's controlled by your finger angle. The further down you bring the hair, what's gonna happen if I cut it way down here? Heavy or light? Heavy. What's gonna happen if I cut it here? Heavy or light? Lighter. Okay? It's not necessarily how short you're taking it, it's how high or low you're taking it. And so since I already have this cut, I'm gonna cut it shorter than this left side that I cut last time. So I'm gonna lift it out and then utilize my comb. You see that, what I did there? So I'm gonna comb it out and then I'm gonna use my comb to help with my finger angle.
So you are doing it at an angle.
Yes.
Okay, not straight down.
No, I'm gonna tell you why. When you check this, a graduation is that the underneath hair is shorter than the top hair. If that's not what happens when you cut it, if you just bring this out and you cut it like this is gonna be a tail at the bottom instead of, you're gonna have to do some cleanup no matter how you slice or dice it on this underneath because this hairline's funny on everybody. But if you don't tuck that bottom in, you're creating a layer on top of itself with a tail out the bottom. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I do need to find my water bottle. So I'm going to go left with my section first. So I'm going to pivot this section out. Can you see my section? So this hair is going to go back to that center section to be cut. So I'm going to comb it on the line. I'm going to bring it back to the center. You see the underneath hair there?
Yep.
That's what I'm cutting to. Now watch what happens if I bring it in the wrong place. You see how it's shattered? That's not a solid line. There's the solid line. Right there. So now I'm going to look at this. The best way to reference this is look at where you are on the head. I'm not quite to the corner of the hairline. I'm right at that little spot. So referencing that over here to create an even section is going to be really helpful. You see what I've done over here? And make sure that they match. So now look at my stance. So over here I stood like this with my left foot forward. I'm gonna switch and my right foot's gonna go forward. I'm gonna comb this back to the center. Now when you pick up the center, make sure you don't pick up these because that's not the hair you're cutting to. You're cutting to the center. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
This side's harder to see because we're creating, not trimming. I get it. So see this? This I brought over too far. Okay. When I cross-check this, I should be able to comb this out at the correct elevation and have a pretty balanced line. Do you see this over directed further than that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go back and correct that. It's very minimal. So if you see that, leave it alone until you feel confident enough to be able to kind of nibble at it like that. You see how that's more balanced? I have this little piece right here. But that's how you're going to check this. You should be able to pick this up and draw it out and have a straight line. Yes? Okay, so now I'm gonna do the next section. Slowly pivoting. You see it? See, the bottom of it's different than the top of it. Yes? Because I'm pivoting to that horizontal diagonal. So now, I'm not taking it back to the center, I'm taking it to the previously cut section. So you're going to get rid of the center. You're going to place your finger at that line. See how I put my finger underneath there? I'm going to comb to the previous section. Do you see the guide? Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Make sure that this section matches that section. So again, I'm not going back to the center. I'm going to the previous section. I'm finding that solid line. Checking across those sections. You see that happening? So now, I'm kind of at the end point, but this really isn't a section, and I don't want a horizontal line. What do I want it to be? I don't want it horizontal. I want it horizontal, diagonal. So I'm going to pick up the next section. I'm going to go one comb's width up and keep that diagonal section. You see it? Yes? Okay, so then I'm going to pick up the previous, none of that stuff, just the previous section. Comb into my fingers. Spy the guide, do you see that? You see how it puts a weird line and you might think you're doing it incorrectly? Just ignore that. When it's wet, it looks really weird.
I'm Dad from Alice Miller, and Nikki does my hair. Thank you. Now, she given me a Brazilian dollar when I left in March of this year.
So same thing over here. I'm going to move up. But now I can just match right there, right? And come down and make sure that they match before I start. This is really deceiving because it has some color that we played with in a class. So that's not helpful for your line at all. But
So it is normal for it to look like that. So.
yes, that little step, yes, it looks weird when it's wet. Nope, just ignore it.
Okay.
Cross check it and move on.
Okay. Don't cut it. Don't check it again.
So making sure, okay, so this side is higher. So I have to adjust this. You see what I'm doing here is like take the time to make sure sections are correct because sections dictate your cutting line. So then I'm going to take this, spy the guide.
Okay, now, because I want to get it done again before I go home,
You see it?
which is in April. Would that be enough time in between? Or Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Can you book me a flight with them, Nikki?
Okay.
That's what I was.
Yeah, so you guys wanted to get it. I figured that. Cappuccino, espresso, or anything you want to get?
No.
Good? Okay.
You see how I cross-checked that? And then I had a little something, so I fixed it. So now this section angle is gonna move on. And we're just gonna continue on this. Here's where people go wrong. I'm gonna do this the wrong way. And then I'm gonna do that the right way.
Wednesday at 10:45, that should be fine. Mhm. Wednesday at 10:45.
This is incorrect. Look at the sections that I've made over there.
I don't get it back.
They're more vertical, correct? They started out horizontal, then I just kept going this way. Horizontal to the floor. So come over here and look at the proper section. Do you see the difference?
I changed my number.
Horizontal diagonal to the floor.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pin these because I want you to really take a second and look. Because this is what many people do incorrectly on this haircut when they're learning.
3338.
So the first one is like, and the second one is like.
This is the correct way.
Okay.
Do you see how this mirrors like this?
I know, because I'm not exactly sure when we.
And over here, it's like the, so if I'm looking at it, like using my hands, right? This is how we were started. And this one goes like this. This one goes like this.
The last one she did, I think, before.
Do you see the difference? So you want to go like this, so your cutting line stays the same. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut this side and then I'll adjust these sections. Now you can cut one whole side of the head and then the other. The challenge is that if you're not really confident in your sections, then this side you could do wrong from that side. So if you go left or right like I'm doing, I think you'll have better success mirroring the sections.
And 210,
Oh, yes, it's, well, that's what
Oh.
Two same prices.
so, okay.
So I'm going to pick up the previous section, not going all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to comb it to the previous section.
Okay,
By that
thank you
guy.
very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You
See
too.
See you on Wednesday.
See it?
Mhm.
This is really important. Do you see what happens as I move outward? What happens to my elevation? It started here. Look at it now. The elevation drops because this haircut gets heavier towards the front. Oh boy, that section's not any good. Do you see like how wiggly wobbly that was? Trying to do it fast to show you. Now I'm going to bring it T to the part. So not here, here. And you just kind of comb up over the ear, make sure you loop all that hair. And then there's not, I'm following the line from back here. You see it? So I'm creating this line for this first section. That's why it's important that I go back to the other side and create the same line on the other side. So this isn't connecting right here. You see it? Because I pulled it too far back. come over here and make that same section. Got clips galore though. So looking at my reference point, making sure my sections are the same. So this is just above her sideburn on both sides. So my front is the same, my back is the same, therefore the line in between, if it's straight, right, is the same. So I tilted her head up, but I'm gonna keep it down because that's how I cut the other side. That was more of to visually inspect it. If you pull too much from the other side, do you see how this looks long right there? It's because like this point right here, everything's coming to a point. So if you pull this over to cut it, it's not gonna, so make sure you're staying on that center divide line so that you can visually have a good guide without questioning it. See when my elevation is dropping? If I didn't drop my elevation, I'm going to show you what happens after I cut this section. If I cut my elevation here, you see how like you could cut more off and you could cut this corner off? You have to drop it down. Especially right behind the ear. See the line here? Otherwise the line would be like this, and then you'd have a hole right here. I know, I saw your faces. It's a lot, I get it. So we're gonna move on to the next section. Keeping that horizontal diagonal shape, or section angle, sorry. Shape.
At this point, you can have her look up or no?
I just didn't the last section because the other section I had her head down. So whatever you do on the right, you need to do on the left. So I'm going to scoop up the previous section, comb it into my fingers, spy the guide. Now watch what happens. If I come up here, do you see there's a guide there? But look at the line. If I bring it down back to where I cut it, look at the line. See how more solid it becomes? That's how you know you're at the proper elevation. Is the line that you're looking through underneath. If the hair is too thick, you might have to take smaller sections to be able to see that line. Now at this point, I usually do my whole left and then my whole right, but we'll keep going back and forth. That's what we did. I'm gonna do what I do. What is it? What questions or concerns do you have at this point?
Just
None?
doing it, I just gotta do it.
Okay.
Then I don't know, but it's,
Then questions or
Yes.
yes, I get it.
but I'm just worried about finding my points and elevating it the right way, you know, and then not cutting and then like thinking I made a mistake. So I like to do so. And then I'll cut off more.
So at this point, since we're not layering, I'm going to take all of this. I did cut it for a center part. If they have a heavy side part, you need to cut it for the side part. Why?
Because how to wear it, or that's where their hair cuts?
That's where their hair's gonna part. What happens if you cut it for the center and then they move their part?
It looks like you messed up.
It does.
But you didn't.
You didn't, you cut it, well, you did miss it because you didn't cut it for their
Well,
part.
yeah.
But then it looks like you don't know what you're doing
Yeah.
because when they move it, if you cut it here and they move it to the side, this side is gonna be fine. This side, when you comb it over, is gonna have weird stuff that doesn't belong. Because you didn't cut it that way. Alright, behave yourself. Oh wow, she's a little crooked. Now I'm not following the line up here. There's no line to follow. I'm following the cutting line. So you gotta be able to find that cutting line at this point. What questions do you have? You ready to get after it? All right, go. The goal would be that you do it 2 times. It's 11 o'clock. You have until 2, so that's 3 hours to do it twice. But I want you to cut it and blow dry it first and see what you created before you do it the second time.